Thank you guys for coming out. Driving over here, Jenny won the sign game, so I'm going to do the intro. I think we spent 2 hours on Z getting through Mississippi, but it kept us awake. It's always exciting to be a part of the SAWG conference. It always kind of re-energizes us for the whole year. And really our background a little bit, we had really no formal training or any kind of background in community development. Our background a little bit, Jenny and I grew up meeting each other in high school and grew up in suburbia, and she knew I was interested in farming, and somehow I coaxed her along. And our folks never really understand that direction that we want to go into. You know, they tell you when you're growing up that you can be anything that you want to be, and I think they were thinking doctors and lawyers, and we ended up getting into farming. Originally we had, I've always been a professional horticulturist for about 21 years. After having a nursery business, we've been farming full time now as a family together for 12 years. So we've been professional growers for a long time, and after selling our nursery business, I got a job as operations director for World Hunger Relief out in Elmont, Texas, and that gave me an opportunity to really immerse myself in farming and running their internship program and really doing a lot of aspects of agriculture. So really at the beginning we were really focused on the production end of it, and being a team, a husband and wife team. Jenny takes focus, customer service and keeping me grounded. And
the books. I get to do the books.
That sort of thing.
Fun part. Yes.
And none of us enjoy that, but it's part of business. So we're small business owners. We've been entrepreneurs for about 20 years, and again, our community is who we serve. You know, you've got to really immerse yourself in the community because that's your customer base. Our number one priority was our family. We feel like the community starts at home, and it really was a kind of a big concern to us. As originally we came coming from North Dallas, we ended up buying a piece of property kind of midway between Austin and Houston, which left us 4.5 hours from our nearest family and friends. So we just moved out in the middle of nowhere, and we also homeschool our kids, and the idea was, we realized early on we needed community, and we didn't know anybody, and it was really stressful at the beginning. It was something that we were really concerned about.
Yeah, we struggled quite a bit with how to develop community. A lot of times when you buy a farm and you have all these idealistic ideas about what it's going to be like, but it can be extremely isolating. And so it was something that we struggled with as a family, how to get that going, how to engage the community. Where we lived, a lot of people were basically raising cattle or hay for ag exemption, but there weren't other people out there doing what we were doing in our community. And so we were probably we know we were considered weird for what we were doing. Here's Brad hoeing, and this is right out in front of our property. It's a pretty busy FM. And they're driving by, and you can see the cars slowing down a little bit, looking at this guy with a hoe, in his overalls. And so we know that they were wondering what in the world we were doing with this huge, in their minds, huge garden,
Yeah, so right away, immediately, your community starts to grow just with the neighbors that you're around. And what we're going to share with you is this has been a 10-year progression now at this farm, and it's kind of like sitting back afterwards. You're like, wow, this has really turned into something neat, So we're going to kind of show you the timeline of how this has all developed with us. But where we're at in Brenham, Texas, anyone heard of Bluebell Ice Cream? We're at Bluebell Ice Cream, is right here in Brenham, Texas. And I remember going to our first, up to the volunteer fire department there, having a little community meeting. And of course, we were the talk of the neighborhoods. Who are these city slickers coming in there? And look at this garden, and it was just a half-acre garden at that time when we were first getting started. I had already run a CSA program at World Hunger Relief, so I had about 2.5 years experience under my belt already running a CSA. So it was a part of my business plan is right in. We were going to develop a CSA and market to Houston. One of the reasons where we chose that location we were at, because like I said, we were midway between Austin and Houston, and we knew we would have a market. Also, when you're buying land, you got to get about an hour out of a metroplex just to find something affordable. 2 years later, land prices tripled where we were at. So I don't know, that's the biggest obstacle right now is the price of land. But I remember going to that little community meeting at the fire department, and Jenny and the girls, I think, were up in Dallas visiting family, so I was by myself, and everyone was like, "What are you doing with that garden? Do y'all realize do you know how much work that is?" And something I learned at World Home Relief, which was preparing folks for third world development, is it's kind of best when you go in not to tell people what you're doing. Instead, you need to show them what you're doing. Actions speak a lot louder than words. So, I didn't really let them know, or I didn't really, CSA, there's just no way they can really understand that. I mean, it's just a totally new concept, but when I explain to the old timers around us now, it's just, we're basically truck farming. Oh, my granddaddy used to do that, so now I'm kind of making a connection. We have a lot of Czech and German influence where we're at, and they understand the hard work, so now after being there 10 years, I think our neighbors respect what we're doing. We've had some great neighbors. In fact, this first field on that top picture, we didn't even have a tractor at the beginning. I got a load of compost dumped out there. My neighbor, he's a Houston police detective that commutes to work, and he's got his brand new Kubota tractor with a front end loader, and he only has 2.5 acres, and he ran out of work to do a long time ago. And he said, "Hey, I can spread that compost for you and till it up." So basically, he tilled that first field up for us.
He was looking for something to do with that tractor.
And the thing is, too, is, we want to encourage folks not to go into a lot of debt. That's one of the big problems with the startup cost, is not to go into a lot of debt. We had a goal we weren't going to get a tractor until we got up to about a 48-member CSA. This first year, we did a 26-member CSA. And it doubled every year. By that fall, we're at 48 members. By the next spring, we're at 96 members. And then we held it for a little while. Basically, at our peak, we've been up to about 360 members serving the Houston area. The community supported agriculture, everyone knows how that works. It's kind of a common facet now in local agriculture. But it was kind of interesting because here we are, we're out in the country, we want to serve Houston. We don't even have a clue what Houston is like. We don't know one end of Houston from the other. And I remember we ended up at the time, this is about 10 years ago, getting on some Yahoo chat groups, Houston Organic and Houston, there was even a homeschooling group, Houston Raw. And we threw it out there, introduced ourselves, and said we wanted to set up a meeting. We were going to bring a sample of a share. We seem to have a lot of interest over there in the Katy area, which is a suburb west of Houston. We didn't even know where to set up a meeting. We didn't know, so we ended up just throwing it out there. Let's have a meeting in a city park. And so we went to a city park. We brought some vegetables. We didn't even know if anyone was going to show up. About 12 people come, and we didn't realize how crowded the park was going to be. So everyone's like, "What's going on over there?" And next thing you know, we're talking to this little crowd. And finally, one gentleman is just like, "Do you mind? I've heard enough. How much do we pay?" They were ready to write checks right then. So we signed up 12 people. And now here we are. It started the beginning. That was the seed, the starting of this community. And our CSA has really developed a lot now, where we've got a lot of other farms involved with our CSA, because we realized early on, because we tried it, you cannot do everything. And if someone's interested in our vegetables, they're going to be interested in these eggs. They're going to be interested in pastured poultry. They're going to be interested in grass-fed beef. We've got basically about a lot of artisan cheeses. Basically, we've got about 7 to 9 different farms helping us with the CSA, offering larger variety to our members. And that was the thing, to make it convenient, because even still, buying from CSA is probably the most extreme way of getting your food, So we need to help not only the farmers that are around us, but our customers to find the variety that they need. And then when we were with this dilemma is, there's a lot of work to do. We are not in a place where we have a very good work pool to pull off in the community. We have very low unemployment rate, which is good, but which means there's not a lot of folks that
it's
you
hard
can...
to find good help on the farm. Hard to find somebody that you can trust to do the work that needs to be done, that you don't have to be right next to them doing it with them. And so labor is definitely an issue that we struggled with. And in the beginning, we asked for volunteers. And we didn't get any interest from just the plain, just come out and help somebody, come help us weed and the heat, and nobody for some reason wanted to do that. But then we developed the work share program.
Also, when I was at World Hunger Relief in Elmont, the whole program is a 48-acre farm. We had rabbits, grass-fed beef, a grade A goat dairy, we had pecan orchard, we had CSA, we had a lot of different programs because it was a part of the training opportunity for a 12-month internship program. So I was already used to I'd already had this experience running the farm totally with interns and volunteers. That farm was just outside of Baylor, so we drew a lot of stuff from the Baylor students in the seminary there at Truett Seminary. But the hard problem was with having volunteers on the farm like that, just this open door policy, is you couldn't ever plan it. You couldn't ever have a day off because someone might just show up. So I knew I didn't want to do it the way that we did over there at World Hunger. Instead, we planned our workshare program around our distribution days. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday was our biggest days to get the harvest ready and to get it out on the truck. So we set up for folks to come out and work on those mornings in exchange for about a 4 to 5, 8:30 to 12:30 work schedule, helping us harvest or plant, depending on what there was in the season. They got a share of our produce in exchange for that for free. We've had some people that's been with us for over 5 years now. And by doing it during the week, scheduled around the time when we needed to work most, what we've noticed that we've attracted different than having the open door policy is we've attracted a lot of retired professionals, folks that are now going to retire and get into farming, or they're interested in learning how it's going to, learning more.
Or we also had people from Houston who just wanted to get out and have a day where they could kind of decompose, and relax and enjoy the work. So
it's good therapy.
It's good therapy.
For folks.
Yeah. And we chose that time frame because it was, it was morning and it was 4 hours. It was reasonable time for people. We do have people driving an hour to come and work with us or more. And but the end is at 12:30 when everybody's hungry. So, pretty much everyone's ready to leave by noon. And then we can, in the afternoon, do the projects that don't require volunteers or help.
So it is interesting that these folks, most of them are traveling 2 to 2.5 hours round trip just to come work on the farm in the morning. And we ask them to commit to us every Tuesday. I put together basically, I have a Tuesday crew, Wednesday crew, and Thursday crew. And I divide them politically. My liberal folks on Tuesday, my conservative folks are on Thursday. No, we don't do that. But it brings together so many different types of people. It's brought together really extremely high quality people. And that's what's so neat about good food brings some awesome folks.
And we do have on Tuesday, it just worked out that a lot of local people come out on that day. And it's become like a family. I mean, they really are, they're like family. They love our girls. We all are,
And some people, what we do is ask them, because you're training them a little bit, showing them kind of the routine, we ask them to commit for us for at least a month. That's only 3 or 4 weeks. And that rules a lot of people out at the beginning, because I don't want it to be like, hey, I'm going to I don't want them to think they're coming and doing a pick-your-own thing, We want to, you're showing them where everything's at and how to do things, so you're investing a little bit of time in them, so we're asking them to commit to a month.
Well, we've actually pushed it up to a season.
Yeah, and most people, a lot of folks only work out for 1 season, but like I said, I had folks that's been with us for years. For example, the lady holding the goat here, Carol Montgomery, she's how old?
She's 83.
83 years old. She's one of the most remarkable women we've ever met in our lives. And now we're starting to recognize those folks. In honor of her, starting last year, we have a Carol Montgomery Local Hero Award. And that was her getting her first award.
Because she doesn't just volunteer for us, she volunteers for everything under the sun in the community. And so it was nice to give her a thanks for we're talking, if anybody's going to come on a horrible weather, rainy, cold day,
Carol
this woman is going to be there.
She's always showing.
So yeah, it's nice to recognize her for that.
Again, on the workshare thing, one of the things that was kind of neat, another gentleman, Steve Cohen, he's been out with us for about 3 years, and he's a retired engineer from Shell Oil, way overqualified to be farming, but he loves to build things. So I've been getting, like, example there of our well house and adding on construction projects. So we've got like a guys' day on Thursdays, the day that we get things built. And Steve was in the area. He was looking for land to invest in, and so he was looking in the area. And whenever I find out that folks are looking for land, I try to hook them up. Hey, there's something for sale over here, and there's something for sale over here. he's been with us for about 3 years, and after the first year, he decided to buy 40 acres literally across the street from us. Basically, he bought it because it was across the street from us. He put in a well, and I have 40 acres I'm farming across the street rent-free in exchange for produce. So we've been able to expand our farm because this community right here is starting to connect up,
And he's happy because his property is now productive. We have some cows over there. We have
we raise our beef over there, our
horses.
draft horses, and about 8 acres of produce. What's interesting too, being at those 2 different locations, is it's different. Across the street, he's got that sandy soil. On our farm, literally I can walk over there faster than I can get in the truck and open gates. But on our farm, I have that black clay, so it's allowed us to be a little bit more diverse. Like for a year, like for example, going through extreme droughts where we've been getting like 11 to 13 inches of rain annually the last few years. Hopefully this fall we started to get a little bit more rain, but that kept preventing me from getting into my black clay, so I farmed all fall across the street into the more sandy soil. So it kind of gives us some more insurance. But that is really neat. That is what we're finding is there's a lot of land around us that's sitting there idle. People just throw a few cows out there or cut hay just to maintain their ag exemption. And he's sitting on this piece of property, and he needs to maintain his ag exemption. So he's happy to have us put our cows out there and our horses out there and to see that farming going on. When we're really big on the education, we're really interested in seeing other people succeed in this. 6 or 7 years ago, I can't recall, when we first got involved, I got involved with Texas Organic Farmers Association, was on the board for a few years and was president for a couple years. And we decided to launch a market grower symposium we'll do at our farm. And we'll have 60 to 80 people come from all over the state of Texas. And we rent the volunteer fire department up the road where we can have a classroom setting. We bring in different speakers. It's a solely focus on vegetable production. We felt like, running a conference like this with the Texas Organic Farmers, you got to cover a lot of different things, beef, chicken, everything. We were like, we could spend 2 days just on vegetables, and that's what we did. Our symposium was centered around that.
The volunteer fire department was literally 2 miles down the road from our farm, so we were able to use the volunteer fire department facilities that had the kitchen. So we brought in 2 really incredible chefs because we felt like if we're going to be talking about growing vegetables, we probably want to use local vegetables and local meats to feed the people coming to the conference. So it was a 2-day conference, and we had 2 chefs to display the wonderful.
A different chef each day doing lunch for us.
That. So we used their facilities, and then that was the morning, and then in the afternoon we came to the farm and did a tour so that we could discuss some of the things that we were learning in the.
Yeah, because in the classroom it's just theory, and that was the idea. Is let's go out to the farm and look. This is reality, folks. And it's not Martha Stewart like everybody imagines. Not always. It is for a brief period, but again, back there to even to our local community, we're the only people farming in our county growing vegetables professionally. Even when we had 2 acres, we're the largest vegetable producers in the county. It just doesn't happen anymore. We're in Brenham, Texas. We're in the birthplace of Texas. I mean, Sam Houston was right there, Stephen F. Austin right below us. I mean, at one time, this was the bread basket of Texas in the Brazos Valley. That's why we got Texas A&M right there in the Brazos Valley, about 40 minutes north of us. But there is no small farming going on anymore. It's gone really large ag. We're probably like everybody else's community. And so we're unique where we're at, and our neighbors, again, back to our neighbors, as they see it, we've been there for a while. They know we're there to stay, but they understand. It's a aging community around us too, because we've been farming was so hard. We encouraged our kids to go get a degree and get a job in the big city, but now they're starting to come back. But I remember the fire chief just telling me, I think it cost us $400 to rent the mill, but that made an impact on our community. We were spending our money right there, supporting our local volunteers, fire department, just by renting the facility. So. Again, it's all about keeping it local.
It was also a great little income stream for us as well, because we did the expense was pretty low, and we had good interest, and so it gave us a little bit of an income, additional income for the farm.
Also, when we're doing these tours or the symposiums, I always get a comment from someone will say, like, you need to, how can you franchise this? You know, how do you franchise a family, family farm? I know that's why farmers used to have 12 kids. Maybe that's how you franchise it. Generational franchising. But also, I always get a comment someone will say is like, aren't you worried? What happens if I buy some property right here down the road and open up a farm and go into competition with you? And I'm like, come on, it's only going to make me do better. And the other thing is, I can't feed Houston all by myself. And now on top of that is, look, we have 100 people that'll come out here for a farm tour, fill up our front lawn, park up inside down the road. If there was 5 or 6 farms right here, it'd be like people in Pennsylvania going to the Amish communities. I mean, it'd draw more people. The more, the better. And we're not all going to be the same, So I don't think about competition at all. Diversity is what makes it all success. And I just find that always interesting. So again, the farm tours. And you see a picture there, the blue bonnets. That's what Washington County is famous for. Right there where we're at, we're literally on the Blue Bonnet Trail. And our neighbors, again, when we first got there, it's like, oh, it's terrible when these blue bonnets come. All these Houston people will drive out here and they'll have picnics right in your front yard. And I'm thinking, cool.
We're going, yeah.
And then the other thing was there'll be charter buses. I'm like, all right, man. And it is no joke. 6 or 7 charter buses sometimes a day will drive right in front of our farm. But what do you have available in early March? It's a hard time of that year, so we're going to be focusing on this, like strawberries. I'm trying to get our Chamber of Commerce to realize it's bluebonnets and strawberries, because there's just not a lot that you can do. But it's a beautiful county, and that's why we love it. And it's beautiful rolling hills, and we would get publicity, and a few journalists out of Houston, and they would comment that we're out in the hill country, and we're thinking, hill country is west of us, on the other side of Austin, is hill country. But we realized, this is the hill country for Houston, because actually it's the original hill country. Because it's so flat down there by the Gulf, and all of a sudden we're in the rolling hills again. But again, the farm tour is a way for us to connect with folks. And not just the technical farm tours when we're trying to mentor and help other farmers, but when we want to get kids out there and families out there and see where the food's coming from. And it's always interesting because we'll invite our CSA members to come out to our farm tours, but like 5% of the crowd is our CSA members. The rest of them are folks that just want to come and experience the farm. So farm tours, is a big part about.
It reaches another group of people who are still interested in connecting with the farm, but maybe they're not a CSA member.
And again, if y'all have questions, even during this, feel free to ask them as we're going. So one of the ways too, and again, this wasn't like a plan that we had from the beginning. This whole community development has like organically emerged, And one of the things we did was a monthly market day. We realized people are coming out for farm tours. We want to help our farmers have a market, and there's a lot of farmers markets that's popped up all over the country, and quite frankly, probably too many, stretching a lot of farmers too thin, And we'll get into that here a little bit. But we realized we need to set up a farmer's market right here on the farm where people can come out to the country where the food is being grown and understand it a little bit more. So we started throwing.
Well, this originated actually also out of our CSA members. This is kind of how we developed the farmers, got to know some of the farmers that now sell their products through our CSA. Because we knew that our CSA members were looking for these other locally produced organic foods. We realized that we could do this out on our farm and invite the farmers to come out and diversify the offerings that our members were able to have access to. And then it developed into something bigger after that.
This is like that center picture is actually our first year. I remember, I had that little quarter acre. I knew that's what I needed to do a 26 member CSA. That was our goal. But I planted 700 tomato plants that first year, way too many. And and one of my friends, Ben Godfrey at Sand Creek Farm, actually the guy that mentored me and taught me how to do horse farming, and that's a whole nother story. But I was like, Ben, I got all these tomatoes. I'm thinking about having a tomato fest out at our farm. but we're living in this old farmhouse. We haven't even been able to paint it yet. There's, we're cleaning up the property stuff. He's like, dude, no one wants to come look at your house. They want to come look at tomatoes. So we threw out that invitation through the email, and there it was, the first. I mean, we'd only been at the farm for like 5 months. I mean, we closed on the property in December, and then this is June with our first event, and we couldn't get everybody on. Like I said, they were parking up and down the street.
Well, and this is when Brad developed a relationship with a reporter at the local newspaper, and that really helped because it was a way to communicate with our area, with the community, and that brought in over 100 people, the first event that we had at the farm.
But again, most of those people were coming from an hour and a half away, coming to Austin, Houston. Yes?
Describe what you did for Tomato Fest. You just set up a booth?
I just set up a table and had all these tomatoes out, and I decided to introduce the other farmers that we were starting to find, because see, we're out there in the middle of nowhere. All the other low organic or sustainable producers were still 45 minutes or an hour away from us as well. So I said, you come with your
We just had Jollibee Farms. We had one farm that was in our same county that we had just met this gentleman, and they were trying to figure out. They were just getting started.
He does pastured pork
and beef. So he came out, and then we also, there's a very high-end resort,
$600 a night
in the
resort
same county, and we kind of developed a relationship with them, sort of. But they have some really great chefs, and so the chef came out. So we had a chef preparing different tomato dishes, and then we had Jollibee Farm out there.
I think it only started with like 3 or 4.
That first event, we just had those 2 other people.
And then we did a melon festival that like the month later. And then by that second year, we're like, hey, let's just do this once a month and invite all these same farmers out. So it's turned into our monthly market day.
We were meeting other farmers as we were getting involved, and we were involved with the Texas Organic Farmers Association, and it was all just sort of coming together as far as meeting other producers.
Really, you need and as hard as work as this was, it was just once a month, but that meant you had to clean up your farm, get ready for people to come out. It got to the point where it was kind of like, oh gosh, next weekend's the monthly market day, and we'd be trying to. And then when it was all over, we're like, man, that was great, that was so cool. It was such a great day. It was so busy. It happened so fast because it was only from 12 to 2. Well, actually, we did it a little bit later.
It was 2 to 4.
It was 2 to 4 because we knew people were going to needed time to come out there and travel. And we did it on a Sunday afternoon. Saturdays doesn't do it. Rural, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But doing events out in the rural market, like having a rural farmers market, or these even these market days, didn't work on Saturdays because one, if these farmers were going to be involved, they needed to go where the traffic was to make money. So they needed to go to the big markets in Austin and Houston. They couldn't come to Brenham on Saturday. So we could all do it on Sunday. And again, Brenham is, they say, is almost number 2 in the state next to Fredericksburg for tourism because of Bluebell and the Blue Bonnets and the historical Texas history stuff that's all right there. Well, if there's tourists, and they're staying in hotels and B&Bs, they're not going to buy a head of lettuce on Saturday to be staying in their hotel room. So we do it on Sunday so they can check out of their room, hit the market on their way back home. So rural events on Sunday works. Doing it once a month wasn't just giving our customers an opportunity to come to one place to get all this food because it's food they can trust. It wasn't any kind of just normal farmers market. Every one of these farmers was committed to organic and sustainable methods. We
had a relationship with each other. We had trust in one another, knew each other.
And it was the only chance for us farmers to get together. And it energized us, and it ended up being the best thing that we all look forward to every month, and it gave us all, the little kick that you needed, realizing you weren't the only person out there doing it. Yes, ma'am?
I have 2 questions. Do you do monthly market days all year round, or just during those tourist times when people are looking at the...
We've done both. Initially, we did it every month except for August.
And
January. But that really got to be a lot for us to have basically a week set aside to get the farm ready for visitors was a lot. One thing we did that was unique as well to make this work for the farmers was we took pre-orders online. it was a lot of work to do that. Actually, I was the one entering in all the data, but people would, yeah. But so this gave the customer as well as the farmer knowledge of what they needed to bring. The customer knew they could get what they wanted to get because they're driving a long way. So that helped secure for both the farmer and the consumer that they would get what they wanted.
Taking pre-orders was awesome because it created commitment. The farmers had to come now because they knew people were pre-ordered stuff and knew that they had to deliver. And the customers, we knew they were going to show up because they made their pre-order. So it created this commitment. And we did this for 7 years. And I'll show you how it's morphing. This is constantly morphing.
And I'm sure there's easier ways there now online to take orders. So if somebody wanted to do that, I'm sure there's
software
resources out there to do that. But we decided to shorten it. Then we went from 10 months to, okay, we're going to do it in spring, and then September, August and September are so hot, so let's skip September. We kept shortening it so that it was basically spring and fall. And now, actually, because of the droughts that we went through, we did not do monthly market days in 2012.
We have not. We discontinued it 2 years ago because we got a lot of construction going on at the farm at that time, and we just weren't going to be able to host it. We're coming back to this now, though, and but the other thing that was interesting, because we did have it from 2 to 4. So you'd work hard all morning. The idea was, let's sit down, take a little break, have some lunch before everyone shows up. Well, they start showing up at noon. So there wouldn't be a break. So then we realized, you know what? If everyone's going to show up here at noon, let's have a potluck. So we were like, 12 o'clock potluck. Market starts at 2. So we had people starting to bring food. The farmers would bring food. We all sit down in the barn and we'd eat different stuff. And we were chapter leaders for Weston A. Price Foundation. So we kind of encourage people man, don't bring no banana pudding, and that sort of thing. And try to remember the things local here, but it was neat, having that potluck, and that added a whole nother dynamic too as well. Bringing people around food and sitting around the table, and people were always excited. They're like, I got this lettuce at the farmers market in Houston yesterday, and this, so there's a story behind everything.
The other aspect that was neat too, and we've seen this through work shares, and we've seen it through this monthly market day and the potlucks, is seeing the relationships that have developed through that event. So, this person these people meet at our farm, they both live in the same community, they hook up, we've had workshare members who have done that, and then at the market days. So it was really neat to kind of sit back and see the relationships that developed through that platform, through that.
That was also neat too, like Jane said, with the workshare. We had 5 ladies, never knew about each other before, met at the farm doing a workshare, and next thing you know, they're all commuting together, and it's the best part of their day, riding in the car together for an hour to get to the farm, and it's just, they make friends. It brings people together. And again, these farmers are that's what we needed. We needed encouragement, and and hey, we're not the only crazy weird ones trying this stuff. And then that moves into, like I said, potlucks that we had at the monthly market day, but then that also we throw together dinners. We worked with a few chefs in Houston, and Monica Pope has been a really good one, and we've actually even had her, what we realized, we've done a lot of different types of dinners. Most of our community that we serve, 90% of our business still is Houston, an hour and a half away. It's about 60 to 70 miles away. Depends on the traffic, And we realized when we were doing these farm tours of the market days, our CSA members still weren't coming out to the farm. So we decided, well, we need to throw together some dinners in Houston. How about if we go to them, make it easier for them? And we want to meet these folks, we want them to see who we are and who they're getting their food from. If we can't get them to come out to the farm, we're going to go to them. So we had, like Monica Pope at her restaurant, Tafi, it's called Sparrow now. We're like, Monica, we're going to sell tickets. We'd like to have, will you throw a dinner together for us at your restaurant? And so we go to her restaurant, and again,
she put together a 5-course meal, and tried to pair local wines with each course, and we had a good turnout.
Well, we always sell out. Every time we do one of these dinners, it's sold out, every one of them. And
we also did a cheese tasting in the Heights, the Heights is kind of a foodie place in the Houston area, and we went there and put together a small, well, actually we worked with a business in the area that does everything cheese. They're Dairy Maids.
It's Houston Dairy Maid that does all Texas cheeses.
And so she put on the event. We were there, and we got to enjoy cheese with some of our. The CSA members were a part of that. We did have several CSA members as a part of that.
We've
So
worked
that was good.
really hard trying to give the CSA members an opportunity to dine together and just meet us and all that kind of stuff. But it's always surprising. The majority of folks are not our normal CSA customers. What we're doing now with our dinners, of course, dinners out in the field. That's been a trend for a while, and we've invited chefs and done dinners literally out in our field. Don't plan on making any money on these kinds of things, especially if
We
you
haven't
have
figured it out yet, anyway. If anyone
Especially if
does
you're-
know how to make money doing that,
Well,
talk
the
to us
expense,
after.
yeah, the expense involved when you got to rent tables and chairs and hire the chef, and no one makes any money on this except for the chef in the rental company. And then what we've got, kind of a unique thing that we're doing now, starting last fall, is now we're doing monthly dinners at the Citadel. That's this building here on this top right picture. This is the second oldest country club west of the Mississippi. The oldest one is in California somewhere, and it has sat vacant. A family.
It was built in 1924.
It was built in 1924 as the Brenham Country Club, and then they bought it and built it for $25,000 in gold on 300 acres, back in the roaring 20s. Really, when y'all know the Great Gatsby, that's what they say this place was when they built it. It was like the Great Gatsby during the roaring 20s. Then the Depression hit, and they couldn't pay their mortgage, which was $10,000 a year. Can you imagine 300 acres in this huge... This thing is so big, it's hard to understand, but the last time they had a big wedding there, which was the owners of Bluebell, they had 1,200 guests at this place. And so it's a huge ballroom, it's 3 stories, there's a lot of history there, it's really neat. When they couldn't pay the mortgage in the 40s, when the Depression hit, a lady bought it, turned it in, they say, a cult. It was like, they had 200 people living there with one bathroom, and she had it till the 70s, and slowly sold off all the property where there was only 50 acres.
Run down, a little bit.
And Edward Smith and his family bought it in the mid-'80s, and they said downstairs the cows were literally in there, and so they had to refurbish it. It's in better condition than it ever was before the day it was born.
But the way that we met the owners of the Citadel was we had, Brad had developed a relationship with our representative, and he was the chief of staff of our local representative, who is a champion of local food. She's done a lot for local food. And the chief of staff knew the owner because
they grew up together.
They grew up together, and so he made the networking connection. He knew that Edward Jr. Was living in Colorado Springs, moved back home to be with family, and he understood local food. He wanted to see something like this happen in the community, and the Citadel had this mystique about it, and there were all
been
sorts of
70
rumors
years
and questions
since anyone's
about.
been in this building.
And people wanted to go inside and see what was in there, and so that connection was made. And Brad and Edward are 2 peas in a pod as far as passion and vision. So it was neat to see them hook up.
Well, and then we brought the chefs that were working, and within 5 weeks we had our first dinner, sold out again, 65 people, and now we're going to be doing these monthly dinners at the Citadel. And what's interesting is 50, not even, probably 60% of the people aren't even the local folks. They're coming in from Houston and an hour away, and they stay and they spend the night at a B&B. Now we get the B&Bs involved because it's, you can spend the night, you can do some shopping, you have a dinner, and then hopefully you go to our new farmers market Sunday morning on their way back. But we bring in these celebrity chefs like Jesse Griffith's a great chef out in Austin. He's got a lot of national attention at Dai, of course Monica Pope, and our next one coming up here is with Chef Ty. He was Food Channel. Remember that food truck race across the country? He got first prize as the best food truck, but he does this French American Asian fusion thing. It's pretty neat. I had a question. Our first dinner was $200 a plate, sold out. We still made no money. because there's so much involved, especially the first one when you're trying to really get everything in place. Our second dinner was $85 a plate, still made no money, sold out. Our next one that we're doing now is about $125, is we feel like is where it's got to be.
We've toyed also with BYOB, Cash Bar, and we're still in the process of deciding, what the best way to present the dinner, what the best way to handle it.
And every chef
it's
interprets
a
it
learning
different.
process, yeah. And so this chef on the bottom, Chef
Ty.
Ty, is from College Station, and what's interesting is so far the tickets that have sold, they're all from College Station. So now we've got a new group of people who are interested in what's going on in our community.
It's important for us to stimulate our local economy, bring money into the local economy right there. 60% of the folks are all coming from out of town, shopping in Brenham, lodging in Brenham, and it's what we call is the 50-mile harvest, because all the meat, all the produce is within 50 miles of the dinner. And that's what's interesting too, is now we're turning our focus more to our rural community. We spent so much time serving Houston and the bigger metroplexes that we got to get going a little bit here. But there's a whole new shift happening right now in local food. We're at a crossroads right now. There's been so much awareness, and we hit our peak about 2011. And now we're hearing reports from our friends that are serving farmers markets in Austin and Houston. Sales have been going down. Traffic's decreased about 50% in these farmers markets. There's an excellent article that was just written last month in Orion magazine on food hubs and the infrastructure of local food. I recommend you guys reading this thing, because that is where we're at.
There's 2 talks, I think, at this conference about
I think
about food hubs.
Anthony at the keynote is going to touch on this too, because we're at a new... Local food was a trend for a while, and now it's reality. How committed is our community really going to be invested in this? We're turning our attention, we're wanting to turn more of our attention to right here where we're at in our rural community, and for our rural community to see a value in our agricultural heritage.
And one interesting thing, speaking of chefs in our community, some people may be asking the question, why not a chef that's like right in Brenham? And one of the issues that we're dealing with is to pull off a dinner like this is not easy. To use just what's available locally and to make it fabulous for you to want to pay $85 to $200 for this meal. It's not easy to pull off, and we've talked to some of the local chefs that have restaurants in downtown Brenham where we're at, and they don't even know what to do. That one chef commented, "Well, I could make dessert, So what we're hoping is that we can engage the local chefs, they can see what we're talking about, and hopefully work towards using more local ingredients in what they do.
We're trying to get them on board, but it's an educational program, even with our rural folks. Yes.
With these local chefs and local restaurants, do you find that they're purchasing things locally? Are they buying their produce and meats from people around?
In our community, no.
Not
They're
really.
still buying off the Cisco truck.
Right.
Mostly, yeah.
It's one of the problems that we've had. We're from Escambia County, Alabama, and we are just starting a fledgling farmers market. And we're in the middle of a food desert, but it's been that way for so long that people don't even know what foods are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If you could speak to that or have any...
Yeah, and this is the trend that we're at too. I think it's not that people, well, even if they do know what food is, they don't know how to cook. And even if they do know how to cook, they don't have the time to cook. So the new trend, I think, for local food is going to be more towards preparing food for people.
And this is where, having relationships with chefs is very important. And we'll get into some of the details of how to do that. This is our farm store that we have now in downtown Brenham.
Right now, if you go to any downtown, even walking here in Mobile, Alabama last night, I had talk, we had dinner and talked to, just conversation with some of the owners. It's the same thing. They're having a revitalization of downtown right here. I didn't know if you noticed, but there's still a lot of vacant buildings. But people are ready to start investing into these buildings. We've got a new trend, I think, where people are realizing, in the past it was always get big, get better. And actually people don't want that anymore. We want smaller, we want more intimate. And hey, this is a neat little building that now there needs to be philanthropists involved that would like to see these buildings restored and then keep the rent affordable enough so poor people like us can afford to use it, you know.
So for the timeline, we've kind of gone through some of the things that we've done on our farm, and reaching our local community still had been difficult in terms of, how do we get to know people in our community and get them to be interested in our produce. Last year, in 2013, April, we opened a farm store in downtown Brenham, and this is the building.
So we're just going on. We've only been open 8 months. And found this old little brick warehouse. That was a picture of it before we got started. It had been vacant. It hadn't even had electricity in it, but that one little light since the 50s. And originally it was built in the mid-1980s. It was a part of the Santa Fe Railroad. It was one of their warehouses. We found out now that they used to store coffee in it, which was kind of cool. And so I found this building. It had been vacant for a long time. It's on the wrong end of downtown by the railroad tracks. And all my friends are like, and we've been looking for about 2 years. We wanted to do this farm store idea. We found this building, showed it to our friends and our workshare members, and they're all like, I don't know, Brad, that kind of looks kind of... But we went in there, and now we're calling it the Home Sweet Farm Market. Local people supporting local agriculture. Everything within it is local, all within our store. We've been recruiting. Of course, there's not produce growers. There's hardly any produce growers, but we're bringing in all the produce growers we can. Really, it's us and one other farm that provides the bulk of the produce. But even if you're a backyard gardener and you only have a box of satsumas right now, we'll buy them from you. I met this one guy on the side of the road. He was selling the most beautiful ambrosia cantaloupes for $1 each. And he only had 2 dozen of them, and he couldn't sell them. And it was like Saturday, and I was like, dude, if you got any of these left over at the end of the day, bring them to my market tomorrow, and I'll buy them from you. I'll pay you $2 each. He's like, what? Yeah, $2 each. I can sell them at the market for $3. We have another lady, Mrs. Ranke. She's in her 80s, and she grows okra and the most beautiful Granix onions, a.k.a. Vidalia onions. They're originally Texas Granix onions. As big as a dinner plate. And she found out, because I'm running radio ads, it's cheap to advertise on rural radio compared to trying to hit Houston where it's $700 for a 30-second spot. Where in Brenham, I can be on both radio stations for $25. And so we run ads 8 times a day, 7 days a week. And we make a joke about it, like, this is Farmer Brad. And we're talking about our market, and we're looking for candlestick makers and bakers.
We originally had Brooke, our youngest
we had
daughter.
our daughter on
she
radio.
was on the ad, and
Farm Girl Brooke, and
we need to bring her back.
And people were like, man, this is crazy. What's going on down there? So we had you can see that was one of our first weeks of opening. And again, some of these folks were farmers. We get people that come and they don't just shop, but they hang out for like an hour and a half,
Originally, we opened the store just 2 days a week. Because we had the idea that it would just be like a market, try to get people to come on a concentrated period of time and, sell out. Or we didn't really want to sell out, but we wanted to get people there early and have kind of a farmer's market feel for the store.
It took us a lot of work to get in there, and even talking with the downtown owners here, the biggest hurdle is getting over the regulations and health department and all this stuff, but we find in the rural cities, they're more willing to work with you because they need to be smart about it if they want people bringing businesses to their downtown. And our health department inspector has just been great. The whole time I was talking to him, this is what I'm planning on doing. And I got a walk-in cooler, which came off of a milk truck, and it's behind the building, so we have refrigeration there. We have a couple, fridges for selling beverages. We have a low-temp pasteurized milk that we can sell because that's legal. And kombucha, and we even have bottled rainwater that's done locally from a guy that does rainwater harvesting in Smithville. We got all the jams and jellies, but because it's a retail store, things have to be manufactured properly in a commercial kitchen.
So like eggs, they have to be licensed eggs. We can't sell, we love to buy the eggs. People come in, they say, oh, I've got eggs, I need eggs, especially during the winter when everybody wants eggs, but we cannot sell them. They have to be licensed for retail.
The thing that is really popular is artisan cheeses. We've got probably about at least 12 different types of cheeses. And so again, bringing it all, creating a marketplace for our community. And it's difficult. A lot of time these farmers markets, again, they try to set them up in these little towns, and they do it on Saturday because they're trying to imitate what's going on in the big city. It don't work on Saturday. It works on Sunday is the day that we found it. It really works. And but we decided too is like, well, we're paying rent and we got stuff in the cooler, so now we're open 5 days a week. We're going to be open 6 days a
We
week.
expanded our hours, and because we found, we were trying to listen to the community, and they'd say Wednesday would go by, we were open Wednesdays and Sundays.
I can't ever.
Wednesday would go by and I forgot, I didn't make it into town, and so now we're open Tuesday through Friday and then Sundays.
So the other thing that's interesting is one of the grocery store chains in our area in Texas is H-E-B. We had a little nice H-E-B, but they went through this whole renovation, turned it into a huge store like Whole Foods, big store, And now we're hearing from our locals when they're shopping at our place, man, they're like, I don't like going there. It's just like too big. I can't find a parking spot. I got to walk 2 miles to go get milk. You can't do anything quick. And we're like, so we need more things. It's turning into like a local grocer's, kind of how we're seeing it. And it's the things that people need every day. They're going to come for milk and vegetables every week because you got to replenish that. Milk, eggs, vegetables, and good baked bread, artisan baked bread. We got so many people wanting to do bakery, but it's all this sweet, unhealthy stuff, And so it's...
And one other thing that we're doing to address your comment about people learning to cook and what they're going to do with this food. I have a friend who is a licensed dietitian, and she left the hospital scene and is on her own because she really wanted to promote healthy food. And so she's a individual consultant. Well, she comes into our market. She wanted to expand and get her name out into the community. She just, she's just kind of getting out on her own. So she volunteers to come to the store and bring samplings of food that, she's like, what do you have? A lot of beets? Okay, I'll make a beet salad for people to taste and hand out recipes. So recipes are huge. We try to have recipes available for and right next to the daikon radish. What in the world am I going to do with this big thing? So you have recipes right next to it. But having someone there who can share her knowledge of nutrition and using the foods, it has been really, really helpful.
And again, we're finding businesses and farmers, we're not in competition with one another. We're trying to create, it's turning into a community center, And it's really exciting. And Jenny and the girls run it, and we have a couple friends, and it's funny, they like, it's been so good for our girls because now they're involved, they're engaged with people, and we get compliments all the time. Oh, your girls are so sweet, and they're so knowledgeable, and what, you have $3?
And they're learning to count change, y'all.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I find myself, my focus, or I'm in charge of production, so I'm on the farm a lot, and I find myself doing a lot more laundry now, and having to get dinner, and I'm thinking, oh man, the girls are going to come home. They've been working all day. They're going to be tired. I got to get dinner ready. But they come through the door and they've had a great day. Every day there's, it's been so awesome. So and so came in and da da da. And we know we're doing something right because our kids, they're loving it. They're loving working.
Our girls only work 2 days a week, in case any of you are worried about child labor.
And we pay them $10 an hour because they're better than any other employee that I can.
We don't want them to want to go work at H-E-B. So.
Yeah.
When other farms supply stuff to the store, is it on like a commission basis?
I buy it straight up.
We buy it. Which leads us to the next point. One of the chefs that was on there, Amanda and Brian Light, they're in Bryan, so they're about an hour from us. They have a commercial kitchen, and capturing loss is an issue, obviously, since we're buying the produce. So now the plan is to have soups made for the store.
Fresh soups,
So we
prepared foods,
provide
ready
the
to go
produce
home.
to the chef. He makes soups for us. We then sell it at the store. So not only soups, but fermented vegetable. Well, not fermented.
You didn't say that word. Canned goods,
Good.
sauerkraut, kimchi, pickled things. Bacteria is dangerous. All right. All right, so again, it's about people. That is the thing. Now we're creating a place for this to happen, and that we do. We have to be the place that makes this happen. And I think it's more important than ever that it happens from the ground up, from the grassroots. Farmers markets are awesome, but the farmers need to run it. It needs to be a farmers '(S) market. It's about the farmers, and what the most difficult thing, and I understand why farmers markets literally have to compromise, our goal is, and we're going to be opening our monthly market day again, is returning now to this store because we want the farmers to come. We want people to come and see the guys.
And we don't have to.
You've been getting this guy's daikon radishes. He's going to be here. You know, it's a place again for people to come to, and but it's important that. But we want to bring the right kind of folks, and because we know how the biggest complaint we have about farmers markets, people are starting to lose their trust in it, especially when peddling is allowed to happen. People peddling Mexican produce and it hurts all the local guys, so it has to be policed properly. And then the other thing is we hear there's just not enough farmers. It's turning into a flea market, and I understand that there's not enough farmers. And if your priority is to sell 60 or 80 vendor spots, you don't really care how many of those are farmers. We're determined at our booths, and we're only going to have like 18 available, but it's got to be 51% farmers. So if I only have 3 other farmers being there, that means I'm only going to let 2 other people in that aren't farmers.
So just to clarify, one thing we didn't mention, the building that we're in right now we acquired a building behind us, which was the original Brenham Farmers Market. They did not open up in 2013 for various reasons, but the same person who we leased the building from we're in now owns that other building, and they were excited about us. So we're going to move our store into the farmers market building. It's a better location for people to find us. And the warehouse we're in right now will turn into vendor spaces for farmers.
The actual farmers market, but we'll have indoor space and outdoor space. And we're the only business on that end of downtown. And so really the only hurdles we've had working with the city is signage, zonage. You can't put a sign there, you can't put a sign there. But, people got to find us, and we're going to work through all that. But it's exciting, again, to see it move, to see it expand. It's only been 9 months, and we're like, man, it's so much more rewarding for us than just putting food on a truck and sending it to our CSA members in Houston. That is awesome. We cannot do it without that. But there was something that we were missing, and that's seeing those people every day. So
we do have quite a few regulars that come in several, 2 or 3 times a week. So we have engaged the local community. We do have people who are coming and seeing us regularly. And so now we finally can say, wow, looking 10 years back, we finally have we see the community that has developed over this period of time. It's been a long haul. It's been challenging, but now we're seeing the rewards of really taking the steps that we needed to engage our community.
Are you able to sell the produce that you produce and the stuff that you buy from other farmers somewhat competitively priced with HEB?
We're right between maybe their organic conventional prices, and like a bunch of beets, I sell $3 a bunch. I give the farmer $2 a bunch wholesale, and I'm buying, and that's the thing too, when you get...
Your stuff is actually a little bit less expensive.
Some of it is.
But some people go through there and like, oh, y'all are expensive. Well, they spend $1.25 on Mexican beets, So, that's not our customer.
If you're comparing, organic produce to what we have,
we're very competitive.
Yes, we're competitive with that.
In fact, I had the new HEB manager came in through our store, and he was like, wow, y'all have got everything here that we can't do. They can't, because you cannot supply that kind of a supply chain, The other thing we launched was our Home Sweet Farm School. Let's do some cooking classes. Let's teach people how to garden. Let's do a beekeeping class. Let's do, we do these in the afternoon, in the evenings, like Thursday night. And the reason why is because we wanted to be it for the local people. If any complaint that we get is like, why don't you do these on the weekends so we can come out? Well, we got other things to do on the weekends, But again, it's about that education. That was a cheese making class.
So right here on the left is the dietitian friend that teaches. She actually taught a class, but then she brings in some really good food at the market. And then we did a cheese making class on the right. So that's the other building.
And we're still trying to get into it. So again, working with local events, local businesses, trying to get these other people involved. I immediately reached out, of course, to the other restaurants that were in the area. I even got some publicity. Edible Austin was going to come out and they wanted to do a story on our new market. And I even pointed them to what restaurants that they were going to. Those chefs did something that week and never done anything ever since. So I'm like, man, if they're not
working on it, it's going to take some time. But I think once they see that people are really excited about something different, they're going to have to jump on the bandwagon. And in this picture you see, we put together a producers meeting on the bottom left, and that is our legislator, Lois Colhorst, who has put together some great legislation to help.
She passed a food cottage bill in Texas, stuff like that.
So at the producers meeting, we had her there to talk to some of the producers so their questions could be answered about what's going on legislatively, and they could tell her, and make that connection, because we've got to engage our legislators and want them to connect with us when they have questions about how it will impact us.
Yeah, we pulled this fall producers meeting together because we were telling what we wanted to do and what you guys can grow for us. I don't need everybody to grow the same thing, and I'm kind of like directing them a little bit. I need someone to do some winter squashes and sweet potatoes, things that are less perishable, that would store a little bit for our season. And I even invited the health inspector out, and he was like, "You're inviting me?" Of course, he didn't show up, but he had another meeting. But the idea was like, "Yeah, I want you here. You tell us what we can do. Let's get rid of the mystery, And again, let's bring those people together. Also in Washington County where we're at, there's about 11 local wineries from our place to Houston. They have the Bluebonnet Wine Trail, so we invite the wineries out. That's another part of business. We got involved with this wine tasting class or wine tasting event down at the county fair. We brought the cheeses, to go with the wine. And then our friend Edward just opened up a little an old ice house in Chapel Hill. So we're creating the food culture. We have to create our own food culture right there where the food is being grown, because we're in these food deserts,
So we need to leave time for questions, right?
Yeah.
So open questions. Yes?
First of all, I just want to really applaud your thoughtfulness and your whole operation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I work on a lot of projects like this in the Carolinas, and it's really thrilling to see you're thinking through diverse revenue streams and community engagement and really planning and being thoughtful that way. So I truly applaud you on
Thank
that.
you.
My question is one of the more sort of boring aspects of all this. What did the kind of bricks and mortar feasibility look like in terms of the owner? Were there historic tax credits? What does your lease arrangement kind of look like? Just kind of curious about that, and however much detail you're willing to.
Okay, we pay $300 a month for that warehouse. Typical rent in Brenham is $1 a square foot. I'm basically getting 25 cents a square foot. This could not happen without that. And it's basically moving away from grants and things that kind of dries up. We need philanthropists that are willing to invest in their own community. It's this whole slow money idea. And they were just, when Mrs. Powell came in there and saw what we did after I'd done, she about came to tears. She was so proud of that. And then when this other building came up available, and I invested like $15,000 to get in that building, put in electricity and water and a bathroom and all that stuff. But it was an investment that we were willing to take. We're used to being entrepreneurs. We're used to being risk takers, And so I think it really is the free market the marketplace can make it happen.
And then on the next building, so same rent, and he said if it's not working out, you can stop at any time. So it's basically month to month.
We tie that into the other lease. So we got a 1-year lease off of this one, and we tie that one in month to month. And he says, well, that's it. I'm locking in on y'all. I've had people that lease buildings for me for 15 years, and I've never raised the price on them. So the landlord has to have the right mindset. The hard part is if a person goes in, buys that building as an investment, sinks who knows how much in there, and then raises the rent to $3,000 a month. No business can do that. So we have to keep it affordable. What we're finding out is people like the rustic. It doesn't have to be sterile. You know what I mean? Because it's a part of the experience. Like, man, this is an old railroad warehouse from the late 1800s. There's not a picture here because we don't know what this is going to look like. This is the future of developing these food hubs that we need, and I know there's some talks on it at the conference here today. I think this is the future that we need to go. The gentleman asked that question, what is the infrastructure that we need? This is what we need. The infrastructure isn't there anymore. We need a commercial kitchen. We need to have a place to help farmers.
Oh,
okay. Another question?
No.
Yes.
Well, I was wondering, it sounds like y'all have been sort of, a lot of this has come about through trial and error, which I can completely understand, but how do you get the word out about these changes? Like, what specifically do you use for advertising, and especially in rural areas?
I'm trying to reach out to the rural area. It's kind of, that's what we're still figuring out. I'm putting it in radio ads and local paper.
People still read the newspaper in our community, so that's one avenue we have not really tapped into that I know we're planning on doing. But he's an internet marketing.
We've got a big following. Our Facebook is we do. I have 2 Facebook pages: Home Sweet Farm, that's more centered around our CSA and food issues. And then we created Home Sweet Farm Market on Facebook. Y'all check it out, man. It's only been up 2,100 followers in just 9 months.
And he's trying to do a little Instagram, right?
I'm trying to do that.
There's always a new thing,
Yeah, we're on Twitter. I do that a little bit. But mainly it's our email contact list. If you go to our website, people sign up for our emails. I've got about 4,000 people sign up on our email list. Between our emails and Facebook, I think I can hit about 9,000 people. And if just 1% of those people showed up at the store, it would work, So, and again, the whole way we figured out with our CSA, it could not happen without the internet. We communicate a lot, every single week, and Jenny doing recipes
But like the newspapers in smaller towns, if you develop a relationship with somebody who wants to write a story about you, that helped a lot. I mean, we did have several articles written about us and you can make the front page. It's a small newspaper. It doesn't take a whole lot to get that done.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you dropping off your CSA
Nope.
shares?
No.
This trend, again, I mentioned earlier that we're seeing traffic slowing down at the farmers markets. We're also seeing traffic slowing down in the CSAs. And we thought that there's maybe for a couple reasons. First, maybe competition, because now there's a lot of home delivery third-party distributors delivering straight to the door. But I talked to some of those folks, and I know their sales is down too. So maybe the economy is having more an effect on it, or maybe the trend isn't what, it hit its height, with omnivore's dilemma and all that stuff. And
So to answer your question, we are okay with, finally, after a lot of time and effort, we've always kind of said, well, we can do more. So we grew the CSA really large. Now we're okay with letting it get down to maybe 100, 125 members, because we got it down to a T, how to manage it and how to get it done efficiently. So we can serve that number, we figure, of members, and if we serve them really well, it can be managed even while we're doing the store
But
downtown.
where are the boxes going?
we have
They're
12
going into
drop
Houston.
sites basically around the West Houston area.
What we have done is we were delivering 3 days a week, and now we've had to reassess because the expense of doing that is not worth it. We had one route that had, the truck was half full. So we've reworked it to where now we're just going to be delivering 2 days a week.
So we're consolidating our route. And the thing is that's the truth of small business. You always have to be willing to adapt and change, and we're doing that. We reevaluate it every 6 months. Every time we go into the next season, we reevaluate where we're at. But focusing more locally and in our rural area, this would not have been successful 10 years ago when we first moved out there. It wouldn't have happened. But more people are moving out there. More people are retiring. More people that are used to those food choices that they used to have in the big cities, and now they're coming to the smaller towns.
One other thing I'll mention is we also kind of transitioned our local CSA membership, because we did have one where people came out to the farm to pick up their shares. Now we have a market membership. And what's really cool about it is we've kind of been tweaking it, and we'll probably continue to tweak it a little bit. But basically, people have to spend $250. They have 3 months to spend it, and they get 5% off all local food items. And people are doing it. So that helps us have some cash up front for inventory. They get to come in and not have to fork out cash every time they come. And if we do expand the store to be a little bit more of a grocer, where we have some non-local products that we can't, like salt or whatever, those things will not be included. So we're trying to still keep the focus as local food products.
Totally.
You
Okay.
will-
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.